In today's show, the Blazers lose to the Warriors heading into their brief Christmas break. We talk about Malcolm Brogdon's play, Scoot Henderson's minutes, and a gift you can give yourself this holiday season. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richman. Listen to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making the show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So start your days with it. Make it your first listen and tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the Blazers' loss in San Francisco to the Golden State Warriors. Drubbed by the Dubs was maybe something that was going to go in the rundown, but I got rid of the alliteration. They're a game they were in it until they very, very much weren't. We'll recap that one. We'll talk about Malcolm Brogdon's play and Scoot Henderson's minutes and kind of the balance between what the Blazers are doing, developing, trying to win. What are they chasing? Where they find themselves in this long middle third of the season. And then we'll close the show offering you a gift you can give yourself. This is Christmas. This is the Christmas episode. It's coming out. This is the December 25th show for you. Full disclosure, it's like after 11:30 p.m. on Saturday evening, December 23rd. So maybe a little loopy late record for you, but it'll be in your feeds Christmas Eve. It's going to stand in as the Christmas episode for you. And this holiday season or this holiday weekend, this Christmas weekend, I want to offer you a gift you can give yourself because, you know the best gifts are the ones that you picked out for yourself. Who knows you better than you? That's what we'll do to close the show. But first, let's do what we do. Fastest recap in the West. Blazers lose 126-106. Hey, didn't start terrible. Weren't terrible to start the game after, a 10 turnover first quarter against Phoenix in a game they came back and won, and then 3 turnovers in the first 90 seconds against the Wizards in a game they trailed wire to wire. The Blazers have been the worst first quarter team all year long. They're the worst net rating of any team in the league in the first quarter. And I mentioned last show, wouldn't surprise me if the Blazers came out with their hair on fire in the first quarter, and they did. They executed pretty darn well. Even the first play of the game, the Warriors took them out of the initial action they wanted to run. They got into a secondary action and got a bucket out of it. Who are these guys executing through some challenges to score, and they lead 30-23 after one. And Anthony Simons found DeAndre Ayton for a dunk. They were getting out and running. The Warriors were turning the ball over. The Blazers might just do it. No, they didn't do it. The second quarter was brutal. Blazers outscored 38-14 and go into the half down 46-57. And then they were just doing the dance you're familiar with. If you've watched this team all year, it's kind of what they do. They're down 8, they're down 13, they're down 7, they're down 13, they're down 8, they're down 12. They're never quite in it, but never quite out of it. And they just did that for the remainder of the third quarter. They go into the fourth down 77-89, a 12-point game. And the Blazers broadcast puts up this, the Taco Bell point of the game, this giant graphic. It's a giant graphic on the screen. It's taking up like a third of the screen. And it's about the number of dunks that DeAndre Ayton had 3 seasons ago in the 2020-2021 season. It's about how many lob dunks he had that long ago. And that cursed graphic, I have no idea what happened because I couldn't see the screen because of this giant graphic. The Blazers gave up a little 9-2 burst, and from down 12 to down 17, that was basically it. Called a timeout. They come out of the timeout. Jeremy Grant misses a jumper. The Dubs score on the other end. They go up 19, and that's your ball game. But like that accursed Taco Bell promo that included that robbed us of seeing like a cool outlet pass by the Warriors because we really needed to see a large form graphic about how many dunks DeAndre Ayton had 3 years ago. That's important to get on the program. There's mid-play in the fourth quarter of a game, and that made it a 17-point deficit, and that was a ball game. It's like they're not coming back from that. The monster second quarter was really what did it. But then, it's like down 12 on the road. opening minutes of the quarter, and 9-2 in the first 90 seconds, you're down 17, and they don't overcome it. Blazers lose 126-106. Blazers actually kind of didn't even really make a real push, but with 4 minutes and 38 seconds left, Klay Thompson hits a three to make it and push it back to 19. It had been cut to 16 briefly, and Chauncey Billups empties his bench, finishing the game with Skylar Mays, Scoot Henderson, Ryan Rupert, Chris Murray, and Jabari Walker. I was hoping to see some shades of Rupert brilliance, but I'm not sure we saw that. And then we got a little Ish Wainwright about a minute later to close out the game. That's your fastest recap in the West. Blazers lose 126-106. To the box score we go. 25 for Anthony Simons, 7 of 13 from 3, 0 of 4 from 2. A weird game for Anthony. I will say I thought he shot it well, but his offense seemed a little hollow. I think the Warriors did a really good job of sending two to the ball. They just said, okay, when he's on the ball, we're going to trap him, and it's just going to be anybody else, and we're going to make DeAndre Ayton be a decision maker in the middle of the court, and then we're going to, we'll help there, and you can swing it, and we're just like, we will lose if Jeremy Grant and Toumani Camara and Matisse Thybulle and Malcolm Brogdon hit threes off of that pick and roll action. Like we're going to play 3 guys guarding 2 in the pick and roll action because we're going to trap and then we're going to help on the roll. And that took him out of it. Like the Blazers couldn't make him pay. Ayton is not like the ideal partner in that position, but he's going to be in that a lot, so him getting better at it is going to be crucial. 25 2-2 for Anthony Simons. 17 points, 6 boards, 12 assists for Malcolm Brogdon. It was good. More about him in the second segment. Malcolm Brogdon played well. DeAndre Ayton, 13 points, 6 boards, 17 from Jeremy Grant, who was just 1 of 4 from 3. They kind of just need Jeremy Grant to score like 25. That's kind of what they need. They need him like in that, I think he averages 22 a game. They need him in that 20. They need him to score above his average to like win. That's kind of, they need him to have a big night. When they've won in recent games, he's been hype. This is like the hyper efficient Jeremy Grant nights. If he's going to go 5 for 12 for 17, it's not even necessarily a bad game, but it's not good enough for what they need. Toumani Camara, 6. Scoot Henderson, 12 off the bench. Only 3 of those came in garbage time. He had 9 kind of in the run of play. Matisse Thybulle, 5. Didn't shoot well. 1 of 5 from 3. Jabari Walker had 5. Scoreless night for Duop Reith. And then in some garbage time, Skylar Mays, 1. Chris Murray, 2. And Ish Wainwright came in and hit a 3 in the final 3.5 minutes. On the Warriors side, Klay Thompson led the way with 28 and hit 6 threes. Steph Curry, 27. Brandon Podziemski, 15, 10 boards, 7 assists. He does everything. Plays like plays on the ball, so Steph can play off the ball. He's good. He's kind of like he's what they needed without getting too deep into it. 6 points, 11 rebounds, 7 assists for Kevon Looney, 11 and 6 and 5 dimes for Jonathan Kuminga, 13 and 5 for Trace Jackson Davis off the bench. Moses Moody had 11 off the bench. Darius Saric had 8 and 2 points, 11 assists for a very funny, very classic old man Chris Paul game. The game ended, and the game ended in the opening minutes of. I guess I'm mad about the Taco Bell thing. I'm really just kidding about it because I was like, "Hey, what happened?" And then they called a timeout. I was like, "They're down 17. What?" I was too distracted by DeAndre Ayton dunks from 3 years ago to figure out what was going on, and it like blew up a highlight play for the Warriors, so I couldn't. I just literally didn't see what happened. So I'm whining about it, but like the second quarter, the Warriors, whose offense was quiet and kind of bad in that first quarter, and some of it was turnovers, and I thought the Blazers played well, and then the Blazers offense just kind of wilted. They stopped making shots. The Warriors are good at home. They're a good home team. Their problems have been that they can't win on the road. They've been totally reasonable as a home team, and they got going. Steph Curry got going, and he got the crowd into it, and they kind of overwhelmed them and then stiff armed them from there. But I don't think this was a game in which there's been some games recently where. Let me be totally clear. Against the Wizards, it was like, how are they playing this poorly? I didn't get that sense from the Warriors. This was maybe deflating because it was like, oh, they're just not as good as Golden State. Like they're not going to be able to get back into this one. They can't make a sustained push. They can't really threaten them. They're just kind of getting, like I said, just Heisman Trophy, just like stiff armed the whole game. But like, it wasn't necessarily. I don't think it wasn't disheartening. I didn't come away thinking like, oh, this team needs to bring it. It's just like they kind of got out talented. They need to make some more shots. And they just had a stinker second quarter and then like a decisive little burst to open the fourth and couldn't get back in it. But it wasn't like they were cutting into the lead anyways. They were kind of just like that little burst was the difference. And then they kind of played them even from there. They went from, it's like, oh, we're down 17, and then they were down 17 for the rest of the quarter. I didn't come away from this game thinking like, I came away from the Wizards game thinking like, uh-oh. I didn't come away with no uh-oh from this one. It's just like, oh yeah, hey, the Blazers aren't very good. This will happen. That wasn't very fun. I'm rooting for the fun games. But like the number that stands out to me in the box score is that Malcolm Brogdon played 37 minutes and Scoot Henderson played 23 minutes. And what's the point? When you lose by 20, what's the point? Let's talk about the point and why it's happening and why it's probably going to keep happening in the second segment. Join me there, won't you? All right. So, I don't think, broadly speaking, that it is a particularly big deal that Malcolm Brogdon played 37 minutes and Scoot Henderson played 23 minutes. This is game 28 of an 82-game season. Scoot hasn't even played 20 games yet in the league. He's pushing up there. He's about to hit that mark. So that won't be that true for long. And Malcolm Brogdon was cooking. He was really good, and he was the Blazers need the way they were guarding the ball. They needed another shooter on the wing, and they need that secondary playmaking. They need sort of his veteran savvy on how to make plays. He shows the ball really big on pump fakes and gets himself into the paint. He attacks well and under control. He can score from a couple different levels, and he can shoot. Like he didn't shoot particularly well from three in this game, 1 of 4, but he can make little mid-range pull-ups. Like he has some utility as a guy who can shoot a little bit off the dribble, and that's super helpful. And the playmaking is super helpful. 12 assists, like he gets folks going and finds guys in the right spot and in rhythm, and he can handle pressure and things like that. So like I said, in the very broad, like at 30,000 feet. No one notices. When you're on that's the airplane level. When you are rolling along on your, I was going to say razor scooter, but I probably shouldn't use a scooter metaphor for Scoot. When you're inline skating along and you're right up against the concrete, it does maybe seem like Scoot isn't playing enough. But I think at below whatever, at like Zeppelin height, it's like, I don't know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And then I think that's true. Malcolm Brogdon playing 37 minutes and a 20-point loss and Scoot only playing 23. It's like, it doesn't really matter. And it's probably going to stay this way. Because this is what coaches do. Coaches try, I mentioned, if you're an everyday listener, I hope you are, shout out to my everydayers, like in the preseason that I thought Jeremy Grant was going to play like 38 minutes a night in these games because of just like being a low screw up guy compared to the people who play behind him. And coaches are always going to lean on veterans who don't screw up because they're trying to win. Like coaches are trying to win. It's probably not great for Chauncey Billups that he's 7-21 this year. Like at some point it's a zero-sum game. If you lose enough, you do no longer have the job. I don't think Chauncey is specifically going to be judged by wins and losses. And in fact, at some point, Chauncey might be judged by losing effectively into the future when we get to the spring. But so I don't think it's like, Chauncey Billups is playing Malcolm Brogdon because he's a better fit as a shooter off the ball against the defense Golden State is playing. He's playing Malcolm Brogdon because he's a better basketball player than Scoot Henderson. He's playing Malcolm Brogdon because he's just, vets give coaches comfort. They have seen more stuff. They can make better decisions. You don't have to teach them stuff. They're not going to forget plays. They're, if they might be worse, but they're not going to, they have the institutional knowledge that you don't have to hold their hand as much, right? And there's just a lot less hand holding in general. That's good. And that's good. That's good stuff, right? It totally makes sense. And Malcolm Brogdon, when he's on the team, is likely going to play a big chunk of minutes, and he's probably going to play more than Scoot Henderson in perpetuity until he's no longer on the team, whatever that means. And I don't think that, like I said, at Zeppelin height, I don't think that's that big of a deal. But at Locked On Blazers, and probably if you're listening to this on Christmas, you're not at Zeppelin height. You're on the inline skates. And I want to meet you down here, and I want to grind some rails with you. And I don't know, what else do you do on inline skates? Cruise down the boardwalk. Let's boardwalk it for a second. The point of this Blazers season is development. The most important headline from the Blazers season is the development of the young players. And I don't think that Scoot Henderson needs to be the one playing 37 minutes and Malcolm Brogdon needs to play the 122, being the one who plays 23. I think that's fine. Like, if they did do that, that's fine with me. Again, Zeppelin height, no one cares. But Scoot needs to play more than this. He needs to play 28-ish. I think that would be ideal for me. Is the difference in the long run of Scoot's career playing 28 minutes versus 23 minutes in a December game? Is it going to matter? No, probably not. Probably not. That's why I said but for the purposes of what the Blazers team is doing, I think it would be better to have Scoot fail a little bit more often than have Malcolm Brogdon be out there a bunch. I think like baked into this is Anthony Simons just going to play 35 minutes, and that's fine. He's 24. He's really good. And they kind of got to figure out what it is. Like, at some point they have to. One of the reasons you don't move off Anthony Simons is because Scoot Henderson doesn't look like a very good basketball player right now, and you have tons of time to wait on that to develop. But like, you aren't making decisions about your much, much more talented 24-year-old. He needs to play and play a bunch. It's Malcolm Brogdon, who's who they just traded before the season and is likely to be out, not on this team after the trade deadline, or even if he is with 1 more year left on his contract, he's significantly older. He's not part of the long-term plans, even if he's part of the next 2 seasons plans, right? Significantly older than Scoot. He's 31. He's a young man. I think it would be nice if you just played Scoot a little bit more. If you just played him a little bit more. For all the reasons I mentioned, like, play him off the ball in a trapping defense and things don't go well. And there is maybe an argument to be made that giving Scoot a bunch of chances to fail is maybe what could hurt his confidence or could be sort of detrimental because it's not positive minutes. But I don't really... it's on Billups. It's obviously much closer than I am, just like some dude in his basement. But if playing 5 more minutes wouldn't completely devastate Scoot's psyche because he would fail a little bit more often, I think it would be better for the overall health of the franchise if he played more minutes. That's the inline skate level. It will be better if Scoot played more minutes. And like, he played a minute of little like mini garbage time. Like, he stayed in from the 4.5 minute mark to the 3.5 minute mark, and then departed. So like, I don't know. Technically, he only played 22 minutes of real basketball, of the run of play when they were trying to win basketball. That's not ideal. Malcolm Brogdon played a cajillion minutes in a game that they were, down a bunch to early in the fourth quarter. It's like, and they ended up losing by 20. I think you could flip it a little bit, and I think it'd be better. I think the overall health of the franchise will be better if Scoot Henderson gets more opportunity to fail. Not that the team will be better. They'll probably lose more. They'll be probably significantly worse in Scoot's minutes than they would in Malcolm Brogdon's minutes. But the point is the development. And at the inline skate level, punting the development to lose by a little bit less 3 times a week seems like a mistake. To me, seems like a mistake. Not a big one. This isn't an indictment. I think a lot of folks, like when teams lose, you want to turn on someone. It seems like the fan base turned on Chauncey Billups a little bit. I don't think of the many criticisms of Billups that are warranted. I don't think like, I wish he played Scoot 4 more minutes is like It's on the list for sure. It's on the list for sure. I'll put it up there for sure, but it's not, wouldn't be one of my sort of major complaints that I lodge by any means. I don't think this changes in the near term. I think if Malcolm Brogdon's on the team, he's going to play, and he's going to play more minutes than Scoot, and he's going to be more effective, and he's going to earn those minutes in the coach's eyes because he's just a better basketball player, and he's going to help his, and I think the real argument here is that his being on the court helps Anthony Simons do what he does, and it helps DeAndre Ayton do what he does, and if you think those are core pieces of what's next, and I think they probably are, it's like then helping them get positive minutes matters, and having Malcolm Brogdon help them get positive minutes because of his skill set matching up matters. Here's what I would argue. If you don't find out whether Anthony Simons and Scoot Henderson and DeAndre Ayton can play together, and you don't find out, give them chances aggressive chances at reps to figure out what it looks like, you didn't use the minutes of this season, a season where winning doesn't matter effectively. And at some point, winning will matter. So use the minutes that don't matter, which is like largely a developmental season. Use them now. Again, we're talking about 5 minutes in a basketball game. This ain't the end of the world, but I would say it is noticeable in the box score. Many of you, will listen to this in and around the Christmas gift-giving season, if you are someone who celebrates Christmas in their house, and if you're someone who does a gift exchange on Christmas. There's many different ways to do it, and there's plenty of people who don't celebrate it at all. But if you give and receive gifts this time of year, you know who gives the best gifts. And that's you on payday. That's you on payday. When you have the money to buy yourself what you want, nobody gives you a better gift than what you want, than you, because you know what you want. So I get a gift idea that you can give yourself in the third segment. Join me there, won't ya? Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond. You're still listening to Locked On Blazers. It's a season of giving, and I have a gift idea for you. Let me do this with a little bit of preface. This is a pro-joy podcast. One of my big beliefs about life in general and sports for sure is that you got to hold on to your joy. When something gives you joy and something positive happens, you got to cling tightly to it, because life is challenging and there are going to be mishaps and missteps around other corners. So when you have a joyful moment, cling tightly to it. Relish and sit in that joy and say, oh, this feels good. I'm enjoying myself. I have enjoyment here with myself or with the people I love or whatever it may be. My favorite basketball team, my main man, Shea, whatever it is. Hold on to your joy. And I wanted to record this show and I want to say, okay, well, here's a reason that you can find joy this holiday season. And I don't think the team is void of joy. Like, Anthony Simons has been a very, very, very good offensive player when he's been on the court. Excellent offensive player when he's been on the court. Shaedon Sharpe has had stretches where he looks like he's going to be really special. Scoot Henderson has had moments where you can see a player breaking through the cracks. Jeremy Grant's having the best shooting season of his career. Toumani Camara has been just an absolute find in the second round, like a revelation coming out of how deep he was drafted, the 52nd pick in the draft. It's like there are reasons to be thankful. Doc Breathe is a very fun bench player. Matisse Thybulle has kind of learned how to shoot while wearing a Blazers uniform. There are undeniable reasons to find joy with this team. So I don't think this team is void of joy. But I would be just straight BSing you if I was like, here are 5 reasons that I find joy with the Trailblazers, like this week, this time after this game. That's just, I mean, let me keep it a buck. There are times that I BS you on this podcast with positivity because I started taking this podcast pretty seriously in the summer of 2020, and the Blazers have mostly sucked since then. So I've chased positivity when it hasn't been there, right? Like I'm not above that, right? But right now that feels silly. It's like I don't want to BS you this time of year. I don't want to do that right now because I think honesty is a gift that you, dear listener, have earned because you're listening to this. The 7-21 Portland Trailblazers. Listen to a podcast about the 7-21 Portland Trailblazers on freaking Christmas weekend. So I'm not gonna lie to you. I love you. You're amazing. I want to offer you a gift idea though. A gift you can give yourself because you give yourself the best gifts. You know it. Because when you go to the store and buy the thing you want, that's the best gift. You didn't want that weird book you got. It's a nice book. You're going to read it, probably enjoy it a little bit, but it's not like you want the thing you want. So give yourself a gift. Wrap it up. Put it under the tree. If you're not a tree person, leave it somewhere special for yourself. If you're not a wrapping person, put it in a bag. If you're not a bag person, leave it in its original box. Just put it out on the kitchen counter. Who cares? The gift you should give yourself is patience. It's probably going to be a rough one. Aaron Mesh, the editor of the Willamette Week, says that the Blazers' job is to keep you entertained until the weather gets nice. Their role in our society and in our community is to provide a source of entertainment when it's dark and wet. We live in a dark and wet place, and during the basketball season, it's the darkest and the wettest. And then the Blazers entertain you, the weather gets nice, you can go do other things. I'm not 100% sure right now the Blazers are doing that. Credit to Mr. Mesh, but I don't think they're doing that right now. There are moments that are fun. Like the Suns game was fun. They played pretty well to win that game. It was a nice little win, but they've been stumbling. They've been stumbling, and I think they're going to continue to stumble because they're a little light on talent. And by a little light on talent, I just mean they're light on talent. So what you should give yourself, if you're in the spirit of giving, is patience. Patience to know that this season was this 7-21 season, the worst, a bottom 3 offense, a defense that's dropping towards the bottom 10 in the league. Like this season was part of the plan. There's a chance that the last 2 seasons were part of the plan too, and it was just like it's been a gross ride to get here, but this specifically was part of the plan. They wanted it to be different. Heck, they wanted to start Scoot at point guard and like really, really go forward with youth. Didn't work out. Starting the other young guy, Shaedon Sharpe, when he's healthy, he'll be back in that starting lineup, guarantee it, next to Anthony Simons. You'll have the games will be more enjoyable with more Shaedon Sharpe. He's been probably the bright spot of the season is the games that he's played really well, plus all of the energy that Toumani Camara plays with. But they're not going to rip off a bunch of wins. And they're not going to probably drastically change their stripes. They might trade Malcolm Brogdon, and when they do, hopefully they get back some players who can contribute immediately and a draft pick out of it. And hopefully those players fit a little bit better and you can move forward and the roster makes more sense and there's more reason to enjoy this team. But you got to give yourself the gift of patience because Scoot Henderson's not quite ready. It's just not ready to be an NBA player. And whatever they were hoping DeAndre Ayton would become hasn't totally clicked yet. And you haven't seen enough of what this Shaedon, Anthony Simons, Scoot trio either on the court at the same time or as a 3-guard rotation could look like to make, sort of value judgments, like strong value judgments about the future. You can say, I maybe don't like this, but you don't have enough strong data to say, here's why we know this and this and this, or here's what we would need to, here's what would have to be, like these would have to be the situation for it to work and all those things. So you got to be patient because they need to collect a little more data. They need to grow a little more. They need to be seasoned a little more. So look under your tree or on your kitchen counter or a place that's meaningful to you, your gift altar at home. unwrap patience and give it to yourself. Because if you're listening to this podcast at this time of year about this particular team, the thing that you could do for yourself is not be impatient with progress. Neither linear nor guaranteed, but certainly a slow-going effort. Progress is going to take time, and you got to give them patience. And you don't that doesn't mean that you need to say, like, I believe in Joe Cronin, or like Chauncey Billups can do it, or whatever. Like, you don't need to buy in necessarily, but you need to know that this is the longest stretch of the season. The post-Christmas to the All-Star break, that middle third, this is the long third. This is the beginning of the season. You're excited. Okay, all right. End of the season, you kind of know what you are, and it's downhill, and the weather's getting nice. And as Mesh says, you can move on to other things. But this is the season when you need the Blazers to provide you entertainment, and this is the season where the reality of their season sets in, and they play every other day for 2.5 more months until they get a break, and it's like, oh, I see. It's not 2.5 more months. It's a month and a half rather, but it's like 7 weeks post Christmas to the All-Star break, and it's a long haul. So give yourself patience, because we're going to learn some stuff about this team, but we're also going to watch them probably get their butt whooped some nights. Keep your eyes a little deeper on the horizon, because down here at inline skate level, we feel the bumps of the boardwalk. And that's what I'm going to do with you here. I'm going to feel the bumps of the boardwalk. Y'all know I grew up in the American South. We had boardwalks on our beaches and inline skates. That's how old I am. I'll be here to feel the bumps with you, to walk you through them, and hopefully have a little fun doing it. You know, stupid inline skating metaphors, an extended thought about GIFs, all kinds of nonsense. And hopefully we can figure out some basketball stuff and learn some lessons from the Blazers on the way, and have it more I want this show to be more fun, make it more fun for you to watch a team that's not good. I don't want to promise that they're good, and I don't want to yell about them being bad. I want to enjoy whatever it happens, the bumps with you. So come back and do that with me. Not only this week, but weeks into the future, because you're going to gift yourself some patience. This is Christmas's show. Like I said, I'm recording it. It's now after midnight. We made it to Christmas Eve, but it's going to be in your feeds on Christmas Eve. It's going to be on YouTube on Christmas Eve. This is the Christmas show. This is December 25th show. I'm not going to record a podcast over the next 2 days unless, like, I don't know, if big news happens. I'll ruin my family's Christmas to record a podcast. No, I'll just record a podcast really late at night again. But like, barring that, there's not going to be one in your feed on December 26th. But that night, that's Tuesday, the Blazers play the Kings at home. I will have a podcast for you after that. And then later this week, they play the Sacramento Spurs, the San Antonio Spurs with Victor Wembanyama. So we'll get to see Wemby in person, if you're lucky enough, or Wemby on your television if you're tuning in. More shows this week, 4 of them, everywhere you get podcasts, and also on YouTube. Do me a favor, if you made it this deep into the podcast, at least brag to a friend about your basketball addiction, and if you could be so kind, tell them to check out the show as well. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.